Coming up, the illustrator of a new children's book celebrates Secretary Deb Haaland's achievements in office. And we learn why hemp is being called the intelligent plant. Plus, we break down the Interior's actions to remove a derogatory name from federal use. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is a proud supporter of Indian Country Today. Students at Cronkite News and Gaylord College at the University of Oklahoma cover Indigenous communities together. This important work is distributed by more than 100 news organizations. This collaboration provides a much-needed boost to coverage of Native American communities nationwide. Learn more at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Amadawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We start today with new and final efforts that remove a derogatory name from 7 geographic locations across the U.S., like valleys, hills, and others. In September, the Interior Department announced it had completed a final vote to remove the 5-letter S word from nearly 650 features. Then last week, the agency announced again that it has changed the final 7 names that were under review. That includes in Northern California, where the name of a hill was changed to Loiba's Hill. The new name was proposed by the Paskenta Band of Nomlaki Indians and translates to young lady. In Tennessee, a local town was changed to Patridgeberry, and that name comes from a plant. The S word was removed from other locations in Alaska, North Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming. This action now means all of the new names are effective immediately for federal use. Actions like this have been done previously for other derogatory names that impacted the Asian community and the Black community. Secretary Deb Haaland said in a statement that words matter, especially in making sure that public lands and waters are inclusive of all people and their backgrounds. An influential Indigenous rights activist has made history by becoming a South American country's first ever Minister of Indigenous Peoples. Last week, Sonia Guajajara was sworn into the highly influential position in Brazil. She has been described as a relentless Indigenous rights advocate and previously resisted former President Jair Bolsonaro's policies, describing them as institutionalized genocide. Some of her new roles include overseeing policies like land demarcation and healthcare. Guajajara, who heads the Association of Brazilian Indigenous People, touched on the significance of this historic appointment.
We know that it won't be easy to overcome 522 years in 4 years, but we are willing to make this moment the great revival of ancestral strength, the Brazilian soul and spirit. Brazil, without us Indigenous people, never again.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has appointed 11 women in total, more than any previous administration. Well, the Shoshone-Bannock Nation is welcoming a new bookmobile to Fort Hall, Idaho. It's part of an effort to help increase reading skills. Here's Rosalind Yazzie with the story.
Poor reading skills are a disadvantage for students in all aspects of academic achievement. The National Center for Education Statistics reports, as of 2011, on average, American Indian and Alaska Native students scored 19 points lower in reading than non-Native students at grade 4, and 13 points lower at grade 8. To promote literacy for the community, a new bookmobile will make reading materials more accessible on the Fort Hall Reservation. The project was made possible with a grant from the Idaho Commission for Libraries. The bookmobile design is unique to the tribes, which features artwork by tribal artist Paula Topsky and wording in the Shoshone and Bannock languages. Jessica James, 477 Education Manager, is excited to see the bookmobile be a part of the community.
And so we're planning on taking the bookmobile throughout the communities here on the reservation, the district lodges, and having certain days being available for community. We want to do workshops and presentations, so it's really beneficial for the community. And it all really had started with just seeing the levels of our reading scores with the youth.
This is not the first time a bookmobile has served the area. Fort Hall Business Councilman Lad Edmo recalls the memories of his childhood when a bookmobile driven by the late Delilah George used to come to his home in the Ross Fork district.
The bookmobile has a lot of purposes and uses. Educational outreach will be phenomenal with this type of bookmobile coming to the districts and letting the kids see something different. It's like brand new and way different for our kids today.
The bookmobile will be operating by mid-January. Patrons will be issued a library card to check out books. In Fort Hall, Idaho, Rosalyn Yazzie, ICT News.
An Indigenous woman is making history by being the first artist featured at this year's Super Bowl. Lucinda Hinojos was chosen by the National Football League to have her work featured on official graphic designs. That includes game tickets and displays for Super Bowl LVII, as well as a mural located in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. It is the largest ever made for the Super Bowl at more than 9,000 square feet in size. Hinojos is Mexican-American, and she's also from various tribes, including Pasquayaki, Chiricahua Apache, White Mountain Apache, and Pima. She told ICT she combined both her Chicano and Native cultures in the painting that has been seen by millions. People on social media congratulated Hinojos for the honor. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Nicole Neidhardt's Diné identity shapes her artwork, from illustrations and murals to Indigenous futurisms. Her newest work includes creating the illustrations for the upcoming book release called What Your Ribbon Skirt Means to Me, Deb Haaland's historic inauguration. The children's book honors Secretary Deb Haaland's achievements and is a celebration of an Indigenous community through the eyes of a young girl. Nicole Neidhardt joins us now virtually. Hi there, Nicole.
Hello, it's really nice to be with you today.
So congratulations to you on your new book. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this book is really meant to celebrate the achievements of Secretary Deb Haaland, and specifically the fact that she is the first Native American to serve as a cabinet secretary in the United States. And so we really this book is meant to kind of celebrate that historic moment through the eyes of a little girl named Pia. And the book was written by Alexis Bunton, who's Aleut and Yupik, and then illustrated by myself. I'm so excited for this book to come out into the world this summer.
I'd love to hear in your own words how you would describe the monumental achievements of Secretary Haaland. I think to Native people, it's something that a lot of us feel very deeply, but to a non-Native person, how do you sort of convey that?
Yeah, I think when you think about, the history that our communities have undergone since first contact, this moment of Secretary Deb Haaland kind of actually being in this federal leadership role is really monumental because it's finally an Indigenous woman being able to assert some power and authority over our, lands and resources that all of our communities still live and thrive on. So I think just that fact in and of itself is pretty amazing. And also that it's an Indigenous woman in such a prestigious leadership role. I think there's a lot of challenges and issues that Indigenous women in our country face. And so the fact that we have someone who we can look up to as a role model, a leader and a speaker for us is just a really powerful moment. And just makes me so excited personally because I'm Navajo. I'm a Navajo artist, and I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so the fact that Deb Haaland is from Laguna Pueblo, like practically right next door, from New Mexico too, it just feels really amazing to see myself represented at such a high level of government. So, yeah.
Nicole, I'm wondering if you can tell us about your workflow in terms of actually creating the illustrations for this book.
Yeah, so all of the illustrations that are in this picture book, I created actually on my iPad. So for this picture book, I predominantly used digital artwork to create the illustrations. But I also was able to kind of reference a lot of like actual live moments from Deb Haaland's inauguration and kind of recreate those as an illustration.
When it comes out, where will it be available?
It'll be available from all the largest booksellers like Barnes & Noble, Amazon, but also from your local booksellers and your local bookshops. I highly recommend you go check out your local bookshops to order this book. And you can actually pre-order it now if anyone was interested.
Nicole, I'm wondering if you can tell us about previous projects that you've done. Had this been the first time that you illustrated a book before?
I just finished a project that came out into the world, Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults. I illustrated that young adult book that was originally written by Robin Wall Kimmer and then adapted by Monique Gray Smith. That also just came out this year, which is really exciting. And then a couple years ago, I released When We Are Kind, another children's book illustrated by Monique Gray Smith. So, yeah.
Well, Nicole Neidhardt, the illustrator of the upcoming book, What Your Ribbon Skirt Means to Me, Deb Haaland's historic inauguration. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hemp. That's what a few tribes and some private organizations are growing as an alternative for things like fuel, textiles, and even food. Patty Tholahongba has this interview with Mark Greeno, who took over a hemp project started by the late John Trudell.
This is the third year Mark Greeno has planted hemp seeds. It's all part of the process to breed out the THC levels in the seeds, so to prepare them for a variety of uses. Mark Greeno is the director of the Hempstead Project Heart. Thank you for joining us, Mark. Tell us how you got into this line of work.
Thank you, Patty. Yeah, I would say it was about 2015. I moved back to Wisconsin, and I was trying to figure out what to do with my my education. And so I got a fellowship through the American Indian College Fund, and I was doing research around sustainable agriculture. And my Menominee tribe came to me and was like, we want you to grow hemp. And so that's kind of how I got into hemp. And so as the growing season went by, you know, we started to see a lot of issues with federal overreach. And so basically what happened is they were basically threatening to raid us in 2015 on the Menominee homelands. And I was like, that's not going to happen. And so I reached out to the good late John Trudell, and I was like, we need your help. Can you help us? And basically that's kind of how I got into hemp. Was my tribe was looking for an economic engine that was not gaming, and something that was doing something to help the planet and you know, sustain the environment. And so that's kind of how I really got into hemp, and it's been a wild ride ever since. And I got to meet John before he passed, and he basically turned Hempstead over to me and said, I want you to build a education campaign to bring back hemp. It's going to start in Wisconsin on the Menominee Indian Reservation, and I want you to lead it. And that's how that happened. And 4 days later, he passed away, and I took the dying man's last wish and I brought it to a reality. So it's been a fun ride.
And it sounds like it's been filled with a lot of challenges, and also this process of planting seeds so that each time you plant, you weed out that those THC levels. Talk a little bit about that process and where you are now in the whole picture of actually planting hemp that you can turn into products.
Mm-hmm. So where we are right now is, when it comes to developing seed, and that's something we were trying to do in 2015, but all of our crop was taken from us. So in 2020, we started with a variety that was actually donated to us by a local hemp farmer who was really, he was really compassionate about what happened to us, really didn't like what happened to us. And he says, I want to help you. And so we took those seeds, they were just land-raised varieties, feral hemp, and we just grew and observed it. And, through the College Nomination, the research that we were doing through the college, we had a little bit of a wiggle room to kind of test this stuff out, see where it was going. It was not going into the market. So we could just basically, once we were done with it, we had to burn it. And in terms of how we do our process, in terms of dealing with the seed, is basically we just let Mother Nature take its course, because the hemp plant is a very intelligent plant where wherever it goes, it's going to be adapting to that environment. So, if there is a high level THC in that plant the first year, I'm starting to see that it starts going down more and more. And not only that, we'd take seed at different times. So like in the beginning of when the seed starts forming, we take a little bit of that. We take some of the seed, closer to harvest time. And then when the frost happens, because we really want to see like, how is this plant interacting with the natural environment? And so that was kind of how we've been developing it. We don't do it in a greenhouse. We don't do it in a lab. We do it with Mother Nature, and we do it with soil. And that's kind of how we do it. And basically how I pick the characteristics is I see, well, how tall is a plant? Is it bushy? Is it not bushy? Really what we're looking for is a tall plant with a really nice stalk that shouldn't be bigger than your finger. And that's kind of how we determine it. And the reason why we determine it by like the size of the finger is that if you run it through a processing machine, like a fiber mill, for instance, if it's really like stalked like this big, like it's not going to go through well. And something that we're really doing right now is we're really developing seed for the Great Lakes region, because there's really no crop, there's really no variety that is available specifically for the Great Lakes region. And that's how a lot of the hemp industry is dealing with this hemp seeds shortage, because everything's coming internationally. There's really no domestic seed. And that's kind of our process of how we're really trying to do it, is develop the seed, but then also create a space where we can have, bio-based products. We can have food. I mean, hemp is, high in omega-3s, omega-6s. It has all your essential amino acids, and 1 tablespoon packs 10 grams of protein. So, I mean, when we look at like a superfood that can handle climate change, that probably only needs, 10 inches of rainfall, if not less, because I do all dry farming. And then it can withstand tornadoes. I mean, there is a stalk that you can see that's just really big and real long. And it's just like, it got knocked over by the tornadoes, but then somehow it just came back up. And I've seen that twice now. The plant is so resilient.
It's a fascinating process to see how you are working with the seeds to get them to a point where you can turn them into other products. So we'll follow your process and your harvest, and catch up with you at another time. Mark Greeno, the director of the Hempstead Project Heart, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patty. It's been an honor.
We heard earlier in our newscast about the Interior Department's push to change the name of locations with the 5-letter S word. ICT regular contributor John Tasuta is back to talk about these efforts and more. Hi there, John.
How you doing? It's good to be back.
It's wonderful to have you. Let's just jump right in here. At a high level, what are you taking away from these actions to change the places that are named after the S word?
Well, the first thing I think people need to understand is these place names don't happen haphazardly. There's actually an old federal board established in the 1890s, I believe, that was tasked with setting place names. And the reason for that is the traditionally and even now, place names of significant geographic markers are very important for travel, to make maps. And nowadays, with online tourism and people coming to visit from other countries, all these are very important that people understand. A place name that has one name used across different medium and that they're able to locate that place and either visit it or use it as a marker for other places they want to visit. So historically and even now, it's very important that these place names are used in the singular, particularly for federal purposes. So this board has a process to set names. It also has a process to change names, and it's very I think gratifying for a lot of Indian folks to see attention paid to this. And the most probably the easiest and the first action taken by Secretary Haaland, was to address the S word, as people are calling it now, in these place names. But working through the board gives an opportunity for the public to understand why the name change is taking place, right? It becomes part of a public record. And it doesn't look like, the secretary is doing this sort of by fiat without input. So, the board accesses not just Department of Interior folks, but other federal agencies that are involved that depend on these place names, and establishing a board to give her an advisory committee to give her assistance with this also opens it up to public comment, debate, and lets generally the public see what's going on behind a process. The federal government often can seem opaque and people don't understand how processes work. So I think that's very important. When people see long-held names changing, it's important that they understand why and why it's important to change those. And I think she's doing a great job of that.
Speaking about why it's important to change the name, we should also just note that this 5-letter S word has been highly offensive to Native women. And on the ICT newscast, we personally don't repeat the name. So that's why I'm referring to it as the S word, as you just mentioned. John, I'm wondering if you can comment on sort of the power of the office of the Secretary of the Interior. Do you think that this is an example of what having a Native person at the helm of this agency could mean for the office and for the agency?
Yes. So, there's a couple of ways that it's important. And the first, of course, which Indian country takes very seriously, is the power of symbolism. So, as we heard earlier on the broadcast, being able to have a Native person and a Native woman heading this agency is very powerful symbolically. And so that, is something important to Indian folks. But when you look at the actual actions, there's a lot of actions, a lot of authority that a cabinet secretary has. And of course, the cabinet secretary in charge of the Department of Interior affects Indian tribes, probably the most interactive of Indian tribes of any other federal agency, but it also impacts federal lands. And as we know, a lot of tribal lands abut onto other public federal lands. And so having a cabinet secretary who has not just some background, a lot of Interior secretaries are from the West, but actually being a Native person, having grown up there, it gives her some insight that she brings to the job. Of course, the secretary, has to follow rules and regulations. She can't just act by fiat. And so it's important that when she goes through the processes, she's able to inject into that her background, but also to pull in people that she knows, tribal leaders. Having a lifetime spent in Indian country gives you access to a range of people, experiences, and backgrounds that you can pull into things like this advisory committee to help with this board changing names. And so that I think is a hidden piece that people don't really understand, being able to draw on those resources and bring them into the department's processes to affect these actions. That's very important.
John, I'm wondering if you can tell us about what you've been hearing from Republicans about this kind of action. What has been their response?
So I think it's a typical response you would find from folks who don't have a lot of history on these. I think that those who have been involved, who are from the West and have been involved, know the history of their states and these geographic places that may be within their state, understand part of the history of it. Other folks who aren't from there don't understand it. So that, and part of what I was alluding to in the public comment and bringing this stuff through a public process to change these names, it gets the story out. A lot of people don't know the story. You have a place name and, they may have heard of the name of this person in their high school history book, U.S. history book or college, but they don't really know the history of it. And usually when it's a passing reference in a school book, They don't give you the background of the story. In particular, they don't give the background of the other people that this person affected. And we now, we know as Native people, but we're now getting a much better access into the public education system to get the whole story out. What do these people do that got them the notoriety to get their name on this public place? Sometimes it's good. A lot of times we know it wasn't a great story. And so getting that story out publicly helps to educate these members of Congress who may have questions. Why are you doing this? But when you have the background of information that goes into the process, that helps them to understand, again, that this is not just a fiat action by a cabinet secretary doing whatever she pleases, but know that this is a public process, there's public input, and the public decision through the government to change this name is well thought out, has a good, solid policy background to do it. Those are all important pieces to educate people.
Well, ICT regular contributor John Tasuta, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
The Sand Creek Massacre, the betrayal that changed Cheyenne and Arapaho people forever, focuses on tribal accounts of Colorado's deadliest day. Exhibition details at historycoloradocenter.org.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.